Hailing from the days of Medarot 8, this chilly polar bear type charges into battle with a mastery on terrains that would slow up most others. This is POB00, ours Blanc, with a kit of Plant Trap, double anti-sea, tank legs, and the leg ability of Snow type, which grants S rank on snowy terrain, in addition to the leg's standard matches. Now, ours Blanc is a model that's been pretty staple to most of the 3D titles ever since Medarot 8 when he first dropped, and he's gone through quite a number of kit changes ever since too. Between freezing and sub-skills, it was rather hard to track how exactly he behaved, but one thing was for certain: when it comes to snowy, frosty, or icy terrain, there was clearly no one better that you could rely on as a reliable and dependable partner in battle. Plant Trap on the head part is a setup skill that, when activated, will place a trap on the opposing side of the field that responds to any enemies trying to use setup skills. So this can be anything from a heater plant, to a melee trap, to a charge plant, force plant, disturbance, anything of the like. As far as explained, Plant Trap will proc and damage anyone trying to use passive aggression or passive support to buff the enemy side. This can be very good as a way to deter success, with mild success, anyone that is trying to cull any strategies with, say, disturbance or shooting traps, charge plants, force plants, or anything else of the like. This is going to be a very good way to cull or even dissuade them from being able to do so without taking any kind of damage on the side, because that trap damage can be fairly nasty after 1 or 2 hits and make it impossible to not only reset the trap or even reinforce it if enough damage is taken. Anti-sea on both arms, and the melee variant of them no less, is a basic conventional melee skill that doesn't really pack a lot of very impressive skills, with its damage being rather modest between the mid 400s to mid 500s, not really anything to write home about. However, true to its name, if it does attack anyone with a sea leg orientation, or if it has been changed to sea leg, the damage goes up to times 7.5, utterly demolishing, annihilating, or at the very minimum, crippling anything that has that kind of designation while on the field. This alone makes ours Blanc extraordinarily dangerous to anyone that is using a C-type leg anytime he's on the field. And given the fact that even on snowy terrain, sea legs tend to be one of the most prominent choices people will use, that makes ours Blanc very, very nasty as an enemy to put up against. And if you pair it off with an enemy that can use, say, Mud Shot or Mud Blow, that only makes him even more dangerous, because he serves as the trigger to the catalyst his ally will set up. Tank legs means that while ours Blanc definitely will not be the fastest on the field and have the complete inability to dodge, it does mean that he will have truly neutral matching on any terrain on the field, minus of course Cyber, but he also has a free damage reduction that makes actually taking this polar bear out just a little harder than what you'd see at first glance. And given on the topic of terrain matches, tank legs are usually B rank across the board, which means no benefit or no detriment, minus of course S rank, which everyone gets on Cyber anyway. But Snow type means that ours Blanc will be running circles around anyone that'll be trying to survive trudging through the snow with middling or even very bad terrain compatibility without something to nullify it, such as with field control or even someone else with Snow type. As far as stats go, he's actually not too shabby as far as a conventional Catalyst Snow support Punisher is concerned. In the mobility department, he's packing a rather modest mobility at about 449, which is, for tank legs, kind of normal. Not overly slow, but also not exceedingly fast either. Not anything you want to really depend on as far as speed is concerned, but when it comes to Snow type, that definitely will add up and comp itself back before you know it. A melee resist of 1217 and a shoot resist of 1033 are rather light on armor though, as it does mean that he is going to be taking slightly more damage compared to most other tank-legged models. But this is also not including the free 30% he gets taken off the top, just because he's a tank leg and because he's built like that. In the armor department, he is fairly bulky though, with a head armor of almost 3,800, arms at about 3,419 apiece, and legs just barely 4,200. While he definitely does have some rather modest damage reduction, he does have the HP to kind of counter that back and compensate it just a little bit, and keep himself in the game longer than normal. His heating and cooling really isn't all that shabby either, at about mid 500s to high 500s, so not really anything to write home too much about there. But if there is someone with a C-type leg on the field, he's definitely going to be one of the first few to the line, eventually, to cull them from the field and remove them from their privilege of existence. All this being said though, as a pure set score, unfortunately, as nice as ours Blanc is, as nice as he is to have, I do have to rate him an unfortunate 3 out of 10 for a pure set. Unfortunately, while he does have a lot of very nasty possibilities and potential for damage, everything is unfortunately very conditional as well. Plant Trap is unfortunately useful only if the enemy is using any kind of setup skill on their opposing lineup, and if they don't have any setup skills at all, this unfortunately becomes completely and utterly useless. The same can be said for Anti-C, where with its very modest base power, you're not going to be breaking anything anytime soon with it, and it is very heavily implied that if you are going to use Anti-C, you either have somebody on the field that can inflict Mud Blow or Mud Shot, or the enemy already has a C-leg for you to capitalize on. And even with Snow-type legs, it does make him just a little bit nicer to have on the field on pure sets if you have to. But again, it is also very heavily reliant that there is an ally that he can follow up with on and support as a two-way hit in order to actually do anything. As mixed parts, though, I do have to rate him notably higher at a 6 out of 10. Well, like I said, Plant Trap is entirely reliant on the possibility and the anticipation that the enemy would have a setup skill on the lineup to use. However, Anti-C has just a little bit more viability there, and especially given that neither of his arms are heavy, which means you can fit them basically anywhere. So again, somebody with Mud Blow or Mud Shot, you can mix them up and have one different arm on two different allies and really cook some damage there. And even though tank legs tend to be graded just a little harshly, having Snow type on there really does come to his advantage whenever you do need it.